welcome to the stage, Coach Mike Avery. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, it's a little bit late in the nighttime for me. So you guys are younger than I am. So let's get rolling because I might fall asleep right here on the air. So
yeah. So just by way of introduction, Coach, you've had a successful playing career at Westmont College, 4 conference titles, I believe I read. With you on the field there. 4 years beyond college, you played at Real Santa Barbara and in Indiana Invaders. I believe there's another one in there. You can tell us about that maybe in a moment. You were named head coach at Bethel University. You coached men's and women's there, I believe. Your first women's head coach. That's a school near and dear to my heart. My daughter's there now playing some volleyball. Not soccer, but we do know some girls on the soccer team, and she's dating a boy that played soccer there at Bethel just this last year. So great school there. 3 years at Cal State Bernardino, assistant D1 Notre Dame and Louisville, and then 13 years as head coach at Valpo before coming to Fort Wayne FC. So you've had quite a career as a player and as a coach, and now hanging out with us here in Fort Wayne as the head coach of Fort Wayne FC. Coach, it really is glad to have you here. So you've been with Fort Wayne FC since the beginning, since they started, I believe, February of 2020. You were named the head coach. First season was played in 2021. So you had a year to kind of develop and get your team together there. What was it like preparing for your first season at Fort Wayne FC?
Yeah, that was COVID time. So, we had started the season. I got hired a little bit late in the process for that first year. They had actually maybe even agreed to terms with another coach. And I was coaching at Valparaiso at the time. And then Valparaiso had one of these budget cuts and eliminated soccer. And then literally on the same day, I got a call from Greg Mauk, who was the general manager of Fort Wayne FC at the time, and said, "Hey, look, we might have a coaching job for you, depending upon what happens with this other candidate who's got some visa issues over in Europe or something like that." I can't remember exactly what happened, but so I, very fortunate to have one door closed, another one open, and get started here right away. And then COVID came and kind of wiped out. COVID won the first season, and so that first season, I didn't build that roster. That roster was already picked for us when I got hired. They were actually preparing to go into a different league, not USL2. I think it was a different league. And then COVID wiped it out. So then we had that long pause on that season. And then when we started for the second season, which would have been our first season on the field, we had decided as a club that the guys who were with that original roster, we were going to give them a chance to ride along with us through that first year as well. And I'm really glad we did. A lot of really good guys that helped us launch this thing back in 4 or 5 years ago now. So it was hard, like everybody else. You didn't know if that pause was going to last a week or a month or a year. You didn't know what was coming. And so it was a difficult way, but maybe it gave us time to catch our breath and get caught up on other things and prepare in other ways. So
so you guys were prepared to take the field at any moment until everything got shut down that year.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember the jerseys, the inaugural jerseys that all had 20, the number 20 on the back, and then there was no season in 2020. So hang on to those jerseys. They may be worth something someday.
That's right. That's right.
Coach, you just talked about kind of the roster that you inherited, then the roster you built. What does that process look like when you're trying to build your roster? Because you have players from all over the country, different colleges. What does that recruiting process look like?
Yeah, I spent the better part of 30 years in college soccer, and recruiting is kind of the lifeblood of college soccer. And so it's similar in approach in some ways, where I sit in the office and there's a blank whiteboard behind me, and we have a target number. There's not a perfect number, but I usually target 26 players as kind of the target number. So it's 2 at each position, and then 1 each line extra. So 1 extra goalkeeper, 1 extra defender, 1 extra midfielder, 1 extra striker. That gives us 26. And so we kind of start to build and fill spots that way. It makes sure that we have balance in the squad, enough left-sided players and right-sided players and forwards and defenders and everything else. And so we kind of start to fill that way. And how we fill it, players come across my desk in a lot of different ways. A lot of them are contacts of mine. There's probably not a college soccer coach in the country who I don't know personally, having spent so much time in the business. So recommendations come in that way. I pour over a lot of video. I watch a lot of games. I don't know that there's anybody who's watched more college soccer live than I have over the last 5 years. I'm very fortunate because with Fort Wayne FC, they give me the resources to go out and watch games. And so, I'll find schools that play in a way that we want to play here, an identity that we want to play, and try and find players that fit. And so a lot of our players come at the USL2 level through college soccer. Also, we have the USL League One attached to us now that we know is coming for sure, but it's been on the horizon even before the official announcement. And so we get a lot of agents and overseas players that are looking to break into the U.S. game. And so they'll come to us with the idea that if things go well in USL2, when we make the jump, maybe there's someone we're going to have come up with us. And so that's certainly the case with this year's roster, but it's been kind of the case with all the rosters. There's been one or two guys that are getting in because they want to see what we're all about. If we like them, they like us, maybe they move up with us.
So I just had a question, like a follow-up question that I talked to Justin Cohn, your communications director there at Fort Wayne FC a few weeks ago. And he alluded to that too, that you're getting calls from players wanting to come here to Fort Wayne. They're getting, social media messages from players that want to come to Fort Wayne. What is it about? Is it the culture of the team? Is it the winning ways of the team? Is it the drive to get to the next level in USL 1 here in Fort Wayne? What's the draw to Fort Wayne from these players that are coming from all over the country?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. We have done a great job at our brand identity and putting that brand out there. Guys like Justin Cohn and others that work for the club that put our message out there. They see an opportunity. There's obviously, DeMarcus Beasley's name attached to the project, which certainly brings attention to it. But they understand that when you watch us play, we're an attractive team as a player to join into because of the style that we play. So I think there's all kinds of reasons why players want to come. And I love the fact that, our players literally come from all over the world. I think this year's roster, we have 27 players on the team. I think we counted 13 different birth countries listed out of 27 people. It's amazing. We have, 4 or 5 teenagers on the team. We have 4 or 5 guys that are 26 or 27 years old that are married on the other end of the spectrum. We were in Lexington on Thursday night getting ready for the game in a hotel, and you're watching this massive Uno card game go on around the table, and all the languages and all the things that are going on around the table. I just think we're just so lucky. Like how often does someone get a chance to hang out in that kind of room? And it's literally my favorite part, the coming together of these people. Obviously, if you watch me coach, you talk to me, I want to win. There's no question. If you say I'll race you to the door, I might knock you over to get there first. But more importantly, it's about the people that we become because of the time that we spend together and the relationships that we build along the way. And I love that part of the chemistry, the alchemy of teams just coming together. I don't even know how it happens, but it just does.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about that. I'm glad that's a good segue. I was going to ask you about the team in general and the guys from all over the world, right? Like soccer is a unique sport in that sense. Maybe baseball is another one where players from other countries will come and you've got this multicultural phenomenon. Like NFL doesn't have that as much. We're starting to see some of that. NBA, maybe a little bit more. But soccer's always been a really international game with players from all over the world coming together to form a unit, to form a team that you've got to work with. And so I'm curious how you manage the different, the different cultures that guys come from, maybe struggling to speak the same language at times, maybe not, but then you're building this whole new culture where they're playing together on the field and the guys they celebrate one another, but then when they're on the field, it's something different. It's something unique there. How do you manage that as a coach?
Yeah, I think you said 2 words in that question that are critical there. Number 1, we don't manage it. Number 2, what we do is celebrate it. So we're not coming in and asking people to fit into some certain mold. And I think one of the problems in coaching, we use an analogy of puzzle, putting together a puzzle. If I just get the right player, the left back, he'll fit this piece of the puzzle, and then our picture is complete. that's not life, because that's not
Mhm.
people. And so, I think that a better analogy is like a mosaic. You get broken pieces and misshapen pieces and sharp edges and different colors, and we've got to create a beautiful picture out of that instead. And so we celebrate the uniqueness of that. We want them to come and bring everything that they have to bring to bear, because then we're better off. You know what I mean? I just honestly believe that we're better together than we are alone. And if I'm not going to come in and limit them, I want them to be everything that they are. And I want to learn from them, and I want to grow because of the time I've spent with them as much as what they spend with me and others. And so I think the celebrate is a better word than manage.
Yeah.
Because it is what it's all about. It's us just becoming everything we are. Now, look, we also have to decide how we're going to play. There's cultural differences in how the game is viewed. In South America, they'll play a slower, more, control style. In other parts of the world where the weather is different and the football history is different, they might play a more direct style. And we talk about it almost on a daily basis. It's like, listen, we can't play 11 different ways. We have to decide on one way and agree that there is no right way, but we're going to decide on one way. And then, they have to buy into that. So there is some massaging sometimes of what their ideas might be. And that's where coaching comes into it. And, but so far the guys have been amazing. This group that we have this year is a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughing that goes on at practice, mixed in with the hard work that happens, but they're coming together. And again, it's the most enjoyable part.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wanted to jump in just kind of back to like the games, the play. So are there any specific games or matches that you have circled on your calendar that you're either excited about or that may pose a big challenge to you as a team? What does that look like?
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to give you the most boring cliche answer ever. And I apologize about that, but all I care about is practice tomorrow morning. Honestly, I'm a one day at a time kind of person. Whatever is right in front of me, we're going to put everything that we can into it. And the game will come when it comes. Our next game is Kings Hammer Columbus. It's a new team. So we're going to focus on that one. Obviously the international match is a lot of fun. We haven't had, I don't know that we've had enough history, and especially this year because they've changed some teams in our division to develop real rivalries. We've played Cincinnati a lot. We've played Dayton a lot, but every team, the league can be really interesting because the rosters can shift. We might play a team once, and the second time we play them, the whole roster might be different. There are teams that roster 50, 60 players. We're not doing that. That's not what we do. We try and keep one team together and build a team. And it doesn't make them right or wrong. They just have different, ideas about what they want that club to serve those players. We're trying to build a club that when we make the jump up, we don't have to change processes and systems. We're trying to put things in place now that translate to the next step. And that's always kind of been our approach. But, all the games are important. And I'll tell you what, this year's league schedule is going to be really challenging. The rosters are it's the strongest league that we've ever played in. So if we're going to try and win another one, it's going to be a really tough task.
Yeah, I imagine you mentioned the jump to USL 1 next year. Like I'm really excited about that, and I know you are as well as a coach and as a team. As far as the rosters go, you spoke to that a little bit already. What you're planning and how you're planning to make the jump. So I've been watching Kings Hammer Cincinnati recently. So I'm an FC Cincinnati fan. Grew up in Cincinnati. And I know they just signed 2 former FC Cincinnati players in Corbin Bone and Kenny Walker. And so their roster build is very different than the way you're building your rosters. And so I can imagine that poses a challenge when you've got guys coming in that have played at different levels that are just kind of finishing out a career, just having some fun because they're not doing anything else right now. They're good players or tough players. But my question wrapped inside of that is, what do you anticipate as you move from USL 2 to USL 1 being like every level? I know the speed of play is a little different. The style of play is a little different. What do you anticipate being the biggest jump and the biggest hurdle for Fort Wayne FC?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time in this team talking about, we have 4 guys, I think, if I'm correct, that have League One or equivalent level, maybe even higher level experience in our team. And we talk to them all the time, like, okay, what does it mean to be a professional? I played a little bit professional. DeMarcus had an incredible career as a professional. we can talk from our experiences to them, but having their peers talk about what does it mean to be a pro, really, it's not necessarily the guys, again, Friday we're in Lexington, 2 guys that got drafted in the MLS, Michael Adedokin, Forster Jago, that played for us here in Fort Wayne two summers ago, are on loan to Lexington with their USL championship team. So we got a chance to spend some time with them in the hotel and before the game on Friday. And you ask them, same question, what's the difference? And the answer always is consistency. It's not technique. It's not physicality. It is mentality and consistency. It's bringing your best game every single day without the ups and downs that young players often go to, or inexperienced players often go through. It's trying to find a level that is consistent and raising it and keeping it there all the time. Every day, the demands of it. We have a player right now, Tavio de Almeida. He played in the English Championship as a young guy, which is a really high level, just one step below the EPL. You watch him train on a daily basis. There's not a day where you don't think he's one of the top 1, 2, maybe 3 players on the field every single day. And when you talk to other players who are similarly talented in our squad about their journey, they all reference him. I'm just watching Tavio and I'm trying to be that consistent with my play. And that just comes from his experience. And so we're trying to help diffuse that through the team, just being consistent. Us as coaches staying on them about the details, them reminding each other about the details, and then that performance base.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I know it's late. We really appreciate you joining us. We want to get you out in time, respect your time. Thank you for joining us. I do want to ask, you heard maybe a little bit of our conversation early on about the 2-goal lead and how dangerous that can be.
Sure.
Any thoughts on that? Would you weigh in on that conversation?
Yeah. I mean, a 2-goal lead is better than a 1-goal lead, I think. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It does happen, and it happens so often it becomes a cliche, and that's why it's a cliche, because it happens for real. I always say this, when we go into halftime, if we happen to be up by 2 goals, the message often to the team is listen, it's a fight now for the 3rd goal. If we get it, game's a wrap. If they get it, game's back on again. And so it's usually a mentality thing. I think someone mentioned complacency. I do think that has a lot to do with it. One team's really pushing and one team's holding on, and maybe playing not to win anymore, just playing not to lose. And that's not a great mindset to go into.
Yeah.
But I don't know the answer, because if I did,
it would never.
Somewhere else. So.
It would never happen. Yeah. Well, Coach, I want to throw a comment here on the screen from Christina Copeland from Three Rivers Regiment. She says, we're beyond blessed to have Coach Avery here in Fort Wayne. And if he ever moves on from Fort Wayne FC, love to pitch him taking over as gaffer for Man United. There you go.
Yeah. Well, listen, I love Christina, number 1. Number 2, I love Man United, and there's not a chance I would touch that job with a 100-foot pole at the moment. They got some amazing work to do. Yeah. I feel like a long-suffering Man United fan at the moment. But it's been hard to watch. I wish him well, though.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you mentioned you've got 2 games coming up this week, one Wednesday night at home at Bishop Darcy Stadium, and then one Saturday night, both against Kingshammer Columbus on Wednesday, Kingshammer Cincinnati on Saturday. We're hoping, we were just talking before the show, we're hoping to all 3 of us get out there to at least one of those games, hopefully both of them. So we'll see you, we'll wave to you in the stands and cheer you guys on.
Listen, guys, I love what you're doing, and I appreciate your support, and the conversations about our team is really, really important, that we keep getting the message out. So if there's any way I can ever help, just call for sure.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Yeah.
Have a great night, you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. You too.